Imhotep, African family, and welcome to the Building the Lighted Temple Wisdom Service. I am Dr. Nteri Nelson, a Kemetic physicist, a licensed clinician and educator, and co-founder of the Academy of Kemetic Education and Wellness. And so once again, beloveds, I welcome you and spending your Sunday morning in this Building a Lighted Temple Wisdom Service. So once again, we come together for the purpose of cultivating this resonant vibrational space in which we may amplify our vibration and distribute the light. Yes, beloveds, it's in these troubled times that we come into this etheric space, this virtual space. It is a virtual space, but it is an etherealized space that we have been cultivated, that we may raise our vibration and distribute the light. So welcome to each and every one of you. The title of today's presentation is, What is My Dispute with My Boss Soul? A man in dispute with his boss soul. The pain of incarnation. So this is part 2, and it's based on the wisdom of our Kemetic ancestors of the Nile Valley, from the wisdom literature entitled A Man in Dispute with His Boss Soul. So we come together to, as I guide you, to examine what is your dispute with your soul, and to see the ways of overcoming the pain of incarnation that we can experience on this spiritual journey of unfolding consciousness. This video was made 2 years ago, and in our more private meetings, as lots of videos reside there and need to be posted up on YouTube, come out of the archive of the Academy. So this is in that same spirit, and this is part 2. There are other videos on the Boss Soul also that you can see on YouTube. And it is this video, as well as other Academy YouTube channel videos, that are all preparatory for the next upcoming series of teachings in the Building the Lighted Temple Wisdom Service. So you want to just stay tuned. You'll want to join, see the ways in our comments section of how to become a member of the Academy, if you have not already done so already. The upcoming series is going to be entitled Prophecy, Conversations on Envisioning the New World. So stay tuned, beloveds. And one of the first questions that will be asked is Earth a school as we envision this new world? How is Earth a school? Now, let's just come here and get started. And I see people arriving. Hotep, everyone. Okay, great to see everyone. So here we have our part 2. Let me just show you this slide from part 1. You can see this up on YouTube, part 1. And just as a little intro, I want to again bring your awareness to the foundations, what is the foundational research of the Academy and Building a Lighted Temple, which is based on two of my many works. One is Building the Lighted Temple with the Metaphysical Keys to the Tree of Life, Ka'aba, and the other is Merkaba, the energy body of light, the technology for remaking ourselves as beings of light. So in our work, beloveds, we are learning to see how we move from Ka'aba in this dimensional shifting that we're doing at this time of dimensional shift. We are moving from linear consciousness, which is symbolized in the tree of life, and our studies in Ka'aba, the metaphysical keys to the tree of life, and Merkaba, how we move to spherical consciousness and to indwell the Merkaba energy body of life. So this is all part of our work. And so here we are with the Ba soul, and that our African ancestors used to symbolize the Ba soul in its journey. So I'm going to show you the second part of the video, and I'll pause along the way and make comments. Please do put your comments or questions in the comments section, and I look to answer them. All right, so here we go with the video.
Just think about that, how these impacts shape our lives. Losing a loved one. And again, as I said, like being born in poverty or being economically disadvantaged, and at the same time, how those very same circumstances have spurred or informed the desire to get out of those circumstances. They really spurred that tenacity and steadfastness to overcome those external circumstances. So just think, beloveds, what have been your debates, your disputes, physically, emotionally, mentally, and think about the soul bodies within that have perhaps been, rebelling against circumstance, rebelling against a higher order and higher dictate and command and demand by the Ba soul, which we may not be hearing, or we may be ignoring, or maybe in resistance to, like, how could this happen? So it can be helpful to see what you have come through already, just in that surveying, because it's been coming through that there has been this capacity building, seeing what you went through. And interestingly enough, beloveds, how often do you hear people say, when they talk about the things they've gone through, how it made them stronger? How they're able to say, that made me stronger. For example, as hard as it may be to lose a parent, the child left in that circumstance who had to care for the younger sibling can come to say, it made me stronger, because I had, he had no choice but to be stronger. So in that dispute, one might say, why was I born? Why was I born in this family? Why your soul chose this portal and circumstance to incarnate? And that's just something to reflect upon, beloveds, to just know your soul is all wise in the furtherance of its journey, and in keeping pace with what is required in that furtherance of the journey. And ultimately, this can bring us into the looking at the pleasures of incarnation, the things that have made the journey and continue to make the journey worthwhile, where you get up each day and you say, I'm glad to be alive. I can remember hearing this grandfather at one point talk about, he was talking, in a very compassionate way about a grandson he had lost through the grandson's recklessness in terms of how he was living his life. So the grandson died very young. But the grandfather was saying, which was interesting to me to overhear, he was saying he wished he had his own days to live out the rest of his life, and that he had his grandson's days as well. Isn't that interesting math when you think about it, that one would so love life that they would want their days, and they would look around and hey, you're not using, give me your days. You're being reckless. I'll take those days. I mean, can you imagine that kind of proclamation where someone is loving life so much that they're surveying to see and say what their wish would be to have the days that a younger person perhaps just let go? I just think about that math, beloveds. That's when we study people, are just the people in the world around, it's just so rich with knowledge. And so there's a real love of life in the journey. What balances that? How do we, it sounds like you're saying there is this balance. How do you find that balance despite things that may also be happening? And this brings us to talk about not just about a faith or a belief, but also about a knowledge. And this is where we're steeping ourselves, beloveds, is in this knowledge of the journey of the Ba and the Ba soul, and the greatest knowledge of all. And it might it might be hard or unfathomable to even comprehend, but the greatest knowledge is, beloveds, is that we are in this forever and ever. We are eternal. We are this encapsulation of energy doing whatever we're doing in this immersion in matter and having consciousness and form. And then when that time comes, there is a release of from that form, and the Ba soul continuing in its journey in a greater expanse. So, beloveds, we're in this forever and ever, and that can be a hard saying, but it's knowledge. It's not belief. It's not faith. It's knowledge. Our book, The Pertimru, teaches us, page 27 to 28 and page 26, it teaches us, and we see it in the Metu Neter, in the language of our ancestors, that if be known, this book be known upon earth. That's where we are. We're getting our Osirianization of consciousness on this Ba soul level of the being and souling our earth. This is where our education is taking place, but this is just our present station, right? So if be known this book upon earth and be done, he shall come forth by day in all forms of existence. He shall come forth by day in all forms of existence, which he pleases, and he shall go in to his place, and not shall he be repulsed. I mean, just imagine that, being our access. And someone, I think it was Tim, maybe it was someone else, who talked about how we're just in this process of recycling, where we're just moving into this re-stellarization. We're at this level of stellarization, but we move into a greater stellarization. And this other passage from the Pertimru says, the beginnings of the praisings and glorifications of coming out and going into Netikert, glorious in Amentet the beautiful, of coming out by day in forms of existence, all forms of existence, which he pleases. and of coming forth as a soul living. So this is eternal life. This is resurrection. And we have to be with those disputes within to even stay the course and get the download of, in that, as I've said, like computer chip of what it is we're getting at this level of immersion. And then we're on to other reaches of cosmos. So, and to keep at it, we do see in this pain of incarnation all the intoxication that's going on, the anesthetizing of the self, the pharmacological industry that capitalizes on, they call it the pain index. But billions are made on our pain index. So what are we doing about that? And so instead, to tap into that inexhaustible source for our supply. And there are ways to tap into that inexhaustible source through tapping into our primal wisdom, through meditation, through our yoga practices, through enjoying nature, through studying the Metu Neter language. They're all ways of tapping into the inexhaustible source, because, and that is the Ba soul. When we are tapping into our Ba soul as a Sur, we are accessors to the fount of all possibility. We are able to re-immerse ourselves into the noon. We may refresh ourselves in that inexhaustible supply. So we move celestially and we come to the earth with the third terrestrially. And it's important to have this panoramic view of why we are here and what our reason and meaning for being is, that we may persist, persevere, be steadfast, be striving with passion and compassion, and fulfilling our life work and service. Let me just come here a moment. Zandra says, oh, before we get to some other before that. I agree with Tim's analogy. Horace says, life's circumstance may be an answer to the why of humanity's struggle. Preparation, yes. And again, so much of what we go through is preparation to do what it is we've come to do. Yes, through it all, still we rise. Yes, that's right, still we rise. And Achaia says, yes, the humor keeps us going when we have the understanding that we accepted to incarnate in this situation. Yes, that's it, this acceptance. And Horace says, man knows not his strengths without a foe. Oh, circle 7, Quran. Yes, and that's so key, is how our strength is honed by those adverse circumstances. You know, you want to sharpen a knife, you have to do so against a rough stone, a coarse circumstance. And Zandra says, thank you for this meeting today. When I was growing up and in the church as well, I was always different from everyone else, didn't quite understand why I never got the Holy Ghost, but always fought for the rights of voiceless, or to lose my parents at 19 and 23. Yes, dua praise and appreciation to you, Zandra. Yes, you know, to have very young losses very young in life, and the impact of that. You know, we want parents to be there when we get married, when we have our first child, and we want to have these rites of passage, and when that isn't the situation, then there is this dispute, there is this why, and having to reconcile the why. And Anika says, when the world has waged war on us, how do you maintain the inner peace? Well expressed, and that is the work, Anika, how to maintain, and that inner peace, that hotep, is our divine inheritance. And I have some in closing, I have some YouTubes up on meditation on how to create that space within where storms are not, because we have to cultivate that space. And that space is there, that because that peace, that supernal peace is within us. And yet, like if you went into the forest and you were trying to find a comfortable place to sit, you would remove sticks and twigs and just get the nice soft grass, and then where you could lay down comfortably. Well, we have to do the same work within. We have to clear out the debris. We have to clear out that is a work. It's there. We just have to clear out the debris. And there are so many things. There's trauma work that some folks are important to do. We've all have our measure of trauma, and the people who are traumatizing us are traumatized themselves. So there's plenty to go around. But beloveds, I trust that today has given you some food for thought as you continue, as we continue in the journey of the soul, the spiritual journey of unfolding consciousness, the Ba soul. And to the extent that we clear up these matters within, we are going to be rendered more fit and capable to confront that which is without, and be empowered through our access to all that is needed, all the supply that is needed for the days ahead. All right, and so Deborah says, this brought up so much for me, but with it all, go forth. Thank you, Dua Hotep. Martha, thank you, Dr. Nteri. Thank you, always beloved Sister Paula. Yes, beautiful, beautiful. All righty. So we'll look to see each and every one of you next week. Please do bring others. Nikki says, Dua U, Dua U. We can see that this is part of our gods is having human experiences, where gods and goddesses having human experiences, and we all have to work out the divinity within, that it has full manifestation in the world. I mean, we are how heaven comes to earth. We want to feel it. We want to be it, and know it's our divine inheritance. So on that note, beloveds, peace and blessings to you. Tell others about our service, and look to see you next week.
Hotep beloveds. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that part 2, and just some more that I want to share with you in the tremendous importance of creating that sacred space within, where that supernal peace resides within each and every one of us. It's not outside of us, it's inside of us. And we want to be diligent in doing the work of cultivating that space within where storms are not. And I want to share with you, and maybe I shared it at another time, but I want to share with you again. I actually wrote it out here. This poem, it's been decades ago that I wrote this passage here, and actually and put it in my book, On the Way to Finding Your Soulmate. It's actually in this book. You can find that poem in this book, On the Way to Finding Your Soulmate. And it goes like this. I'm going to make it bigger so you can hopefully see it. And it reads as follows. If you had to just do an inner scan, we as part of relaxation and meditation, we're taught to do a body scan, an inner scan. But when you think about that place within, and this is a title, God within, that place within, how do you locate that God within? And we know in today there's different naming for the infinite, eternal, all in all, Neter, Amun Ra, Allah, Jehovah, Jah. Is the Aman. There's different naming, but how do you tap into that space within you, locate that space? So I wrote these words in that attempt, and I would encourage you too, beloveds, to do the same. And it goes like this. At the end of the depths of my eyes. Now, so you think about looking into what do they say, the eyes of the soul, the windows of the soul. So, but going in deeper than that, at the end of the depths of my eyes. So I went there. It's got to be even beyond that, even as you look out at someone else into their eyes and see their eyes as the window to the soul, you're just getting started. At the end of the depths of my eyes, beyond the thudding in my brain, so it's beyond whatever that organ is also, down from the stuttering of my tongue, underneath the lump in my throat, past the heavy risings of my lungs, behind the pounding of my heart and the hollow of my stomach. When you try to locate it, it's so deep within here. You got it. You can almost feel it way back there. It's just very deep within. You want to describe your own depths of how you are at one with God, with the divine, within that space of supernal peace and at rest. Where do you locate that? Behind the pounding of my heart and the hollow of my stomach, somewhere along my spinal column. There is a place where I go and I am with God. This last line says, I am with God. So just think about that, beloveds. Ponder on that and meditate upon there. It moved now that there is a place where I go and I am with God. There is a place where I go and I am with God. There is a place where I go and I am with God. And someone said that they had gone to church and they hadn't felt the Holy Ghost, and And there's a whole spiritual practice and understanding to what even that Kemetically understood of even what that entails. But here I say somewhere along my spinal column, because it is the jet pillar, the spinal column, the raising of the fires within, the raising of the fires within from the base chakra to the crown chakra, the top of the head, and completing our circuitry, which is what we do when we indwell the macabre energy body of light. We knit ourselves back together again. That fire, there is the completing the circuitry within, and when we complete the circuitry within, there is that vibration, there is that radiatory effect that can be experienced and can be called by varying names, the Holy Ghost. But we want to understand Kemetically, because our African ancestors have given us the Kemetic technology for remaking ourselves as beings of light. And when we re-immerse ourselves in these studies, we see the way to complete our circuitry where Ka'aba, we are knitting ourselves back together again in this journey of the soul. And all right, so I'm getting that call from Rosalind. Hold on a moment, beloved. So, all right, this is my technical person. Hello. Oh, well, yeah. All right. Yes, I'm still on in the service, Rosalind. You have to call me later. Okay, peace. No, peace and love. Okay. All right. So, beloveds, I hope that you too are very active in creating this sacred space within. And if you think about, for example, a tin can, let's say a Coca-Cola can, a can, and if there is nothing inside, if there's no sacred space within, nothing that one can immerse within or find comfort in, then the outside world can easily crush that tin can. And when we cultivate that sacred space within, and I'm very, 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 very fond of saying that this is the most sacred real estate that we can ever possess. The most sacred real estate that we can ever possess. Think about it, beloveds. There are people in the world, they're multi-millionaires, billionaires. They own islands, they own yachts, they own airlines, they own, and they're unhappy. They're unhappy beings. And so just the possession of external property can never satisfy in the way that the real estate that I'm talking about satisfies. And when we tap into that, we don't have to worry about so much the pain of incarnation or being counted on somebody's pain index scale where they're making billions of dollars pharmaceutically, through substance use, substance abuse. When we can tap into that infinite source, and when we are in our Ba soul body, we are as accessors, as our sir, we are accessors to what? The fount of all possibility. We are able to tap into the Aman, the infinite, the eternal, the nothingness and simultaneous everythingness. So think about our supply. We have an inexhaustible supply if we can but tap into it. And of course, beloveds, that means having peace in these other vehicles, the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, in order to tap into these higher soul bodies that we possess. And I'll just hold this up. Let me just move this a moment. Let me see if I can move that. Okay, yeah, so you can see there. We tap into these higher soul bodies. We want to, as we unpack ourselves and indwell at these higher levels. But of course, the debate, the battle, the chafing, the upsetness is coming from the physical body, the soul body, physical soul body, the emotional soul body, the mental soul body. It is debating with the Ba soul, the higher soul, about the circumstances we experience. You know, like, how could you? How could you? How could this happen to me? How could this happen to my loved one? And so on and so forth. And so we have to do this work of understanding that Ba soul, and it may not feel like it every day, but that Ba soul is ever wise in guiding even the moment of our incarnation in this apparatus, this body, these soul bodies. And our African ancestors teach us there are 7 soul bodies. So that Ba soul, which is where we want to reside, within that Ba soul, in that Assyrianization of consciousness, that is where we want to raise our consciousness. And when we have done that work, and I talk about, and we'll talk more as we move into this next series, you know, how we're able to download like a computer chip, the experiences that have happened in the physical, the emotional, the mental soul bodies, all that we've learned and garnered. And we are, as it has been stated already, off to further reaches of cosmos, because we indwell all forms. We may indwell all forms. What are our African ancestors teaching us? All right, we are experiencing Earth as a school, but they teach us there is more. They teach us there is more. Even those who were not studied in these studies are researching and doing explorations in spheres beyond this Earth sphere. You know, they are looking to go to spheres beyond this earthly school and sphere. And our African ancestors teach us that this is our divine inheritance. We're in this exploration, this spiritual journey of the soul. and we're in it eternally. So the thing is to enjoy the journey, but we need certain practices in this earthly journey in order to then enjoy the fuller cosmic inheritance that and it is even in placing our awareness here. Of course, we have to come to earth with a thud and do our earthly duties, so we have to remain grounded. Meditation helps with this also. When we are able to glimpse on these levels, then the earthly thing, we're going through it, but we're what do they say, of this earth, in this earth, but not of it. We are citizens of cosmos, of the universe. We are, and this helps give us scale and perspective to the things that seemingly would plague us if we thought that we were collapsed in this one and only lifetime and in this one and only body of existence. This is borrowed substance. This earthy, dusty is just borrowed substance. So we know we are stellar substance, and we are just surveying from our little local level of observation in our current immersion in matter and form, and trying our level best not to be totally overcome by the seeming impacts at this level of immersion in matter. These because matter is really about, well, what's the matter with you? What is the matter with you? What's the matter? Well, the matter is the matters, and when we see that we're more than the matters, then we move more calmly, and we know that we're much, 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 much more, much, 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 much more. Who we are could never be collapsed in these flesh, blood, bone bodies that seemingly die after 60 years and don't even collect Social Security a lot of the time. We are much, 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 much more. And we want to embrace our wider identity and identification. Who are we? Who are we? Who are we? Some would say, well, I'm this, I'm that, and I live here, and I work there, and I have this much money saved. But we are much, 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 much more. Let's enjoy the journey, beloveds. So look forward to seeing you. Oh, let me just check. I see I got some responses here. Let me go. Hi, Hotep, Jeanette, good to see you. Peace and blessings to everyone. Diane, Horace, Andrea. Oh, here's a picture. Jeanette says, I can picture a space in nature. Let me put her comment up here. Let's see. I can picture a space in nature where I am so exhausted and need to rest, but can't rest until I clear the debris to take a break so I can keep going. Yes, we do need to do the work of cultivating the space. And this is how we, and Kim, great to see you. Good to, Doug, Hotep, everyone. You're welcome, Kim. And we, yes, we need to be very active in this practice of claiming the infinite peace, Hotep, and satisfaction that is already resident within. We don't have to go out at night and pay for something. It's an inexhaustible supply. And it's there any time of day. Any time of day, it is within that we tap within the divine within us. So peace and blessings, everyone. Look forward to seeing you next week. And our new series is going to be beginning where, we are stepping into a wider identity of who we are. Who are you? Who are you? And be able to appreciate more life and living, despite the appearances of things. Despite the appearances of things. All right, Uncle Jocelyn, see you next time.